Great. Our next question actually comes from Neil Stein. And Neil, if you're on the line, I'll ask you to elaborate on the question.
Sure thing. Thanks for doing this seminar today. It was really helpful, and got a lot of good people on it. So my question had to do with just straighten up again. The question had to do with one of the areas of focus around lack of evidence, and generally when we speak about that, it's referred to as clinical or economic efficacy. We all agree it's important, but we're not going to get clinical trials like outcomes from mHealth programs. So what I'd like to see is maybe a better definition about what we're looking for, what we're talking about around outcomes, because I think if we wait for those clinical trial-like outcomes, we have a long wait ahead of us. I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, that's a great point. A couple thoughts, and what we've been thinking of as we define, what would the Alliance do and what are the commons areas to focus on within evidence. The first reflection is just that while evidence has been such a critical gap, there are other organizations that are working on this now. GSMA, WHO, Hopkins, just to name a few, have been really digging in to say, what is the level of evidence that exists today and what's needed going forward. So we would work closely with partners like those I mentioned and others, including anyone on the phone who's doing work in this area. The second piece, I think there's just a missing understanding of what stakeholders need what type of evidence. And I think to your point, not only do we not have time for clinical trials type of evidence, but that's not always what's needed, and that there are some operational pieces and cost benefit, I think, that are useful for funders and useful for some of the actors that need not be at the level of efficacy and health outcomes. With that in mind, two things. One is I think the stakeholder mapping is something that the Alliance, in collaboration with partners, could help to take forward. The second is there's been mention of the need for an understanding of ways in which rapid evaluation could be conducted, again, where appropriate for certain stakeholders and in situations where there's a faster way of getting to evidence, and the burden of proof need not be, again, at the level of clinical trials or the level of outcomes evidence that's needed in other situations. So these are just a couple of ideas, and again, I think this is the draft strategy and at a level where we're beginning to get into some of the concrete activities that would lie within each of these roles the Alliance would play, but an area where we very much want your feedback. So any reactions to what I just outlined would be appreciated, and we can work to flesh this out together.
Perfect. And just so everyone on the line knows, we will be posting all of the questions that we receive on the discussion board so that everyone can see what questions were submitted. So our next question actually comes from Angelica Diogiricor, and her question is very much around the fact for the Alliance to be very focused. Can we elaborate further on then what the focus audience for the different objectives are, as well as the focus geographies? So, for instance, would we be prioritizing global versus national? Does it make sense to focus on short-term versus long-term in different locations? And Angelica, I'm opening up the floor to you if you'd like to elaborate further on your question.
Yeah, no, I think you synthesized it well. Yeah, it's Angelica. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, good question, Angelica, and I think you're hitting on a point that remains on our minds, and as you saw from the stakeholder feedback, this theme of focus comes up again and again. And the real angle and dimension of focus here that we've converged on is the idea that the Alliance should be working with its members and partners to build the commons. And the nature of the commons is such that the screen becomes less one individual target audience, but more is this actually a commons area? Is it a public good that no other actors will take on individually and that doesn't disproportionately benefit any one actor? And by definition, that's going to be targeted at a broad community rather than an individual audience. While that's true, as we dig into these 5 strategic priority areas and the role the Alliance will play in building the commons within each of those, there'll be a process by which the Alliance will be working with members and partners, starting to structure these working groups and broader communities of practice, and prioritizing, just as you said, what are the short-term objectives here that we think we can achieve in the next 12 to 24 months, and that will actually make a substantial difference in terms of the impact and mainstreaming of mHealth. And then how do we start to target with those objectives in mind? Which countries matter? Who is the audience? If we're talking about evidence, which stakeholders are we prioritizing? And I think that's where the setting the agenda will very quickly lead to a focus that will drive the activities and the sharp commons focus within these 5 strategic priorities.
Great. Our next question comes from Andrew Carlin, and his question is around the fact that so one of the concerns from the field is how mHealth technology can best improve aspects of the delivery of health as well as development interventions. And the concern is that there's essentially a fragmented nature of the mHealth solutions, as well as the danger of proprietary applications. So the question would be, in what way can the Alliance move beyond the role of an information broker and working for the commons, but then moving beyond that to seek to develop and establish learning platforms, particularly in the Global South, to drive innovation, experimentation at the field levels, and also the impact on end user lives. So, Andrew, I'd love to open up the discussion to you to further elaborate on that question.
Sure. Hi. Thanks. No, that's fine. I'm very concerned about making sure that this is accountable to users at the field level, whether they're developers, whether they're beneficiaries of the technologies, and to ensure that their voices are being heard and there's the opportunity for innovation and experimentation happens in these places.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Andrew. And I mean, one thing that we heard in the strategic review we conducted was actually that stakeholders felt that the mHealth Alliance should stay far from implementation and going too far downstream. So the strategy that we've outlined here recognizes that and stays at a bit of a higher level, and as you've characterized it, within this information brokering and building of the commons. I think that one angle, though, and one piece of what you're saying has been something that we very much want to build into the strategy, and that's really providing the connectivity for learning, for sharing of information, and recognizing that that needs to be in the Global South and needs to be touching people who are doing the work at the country level. So as we think about the tools for collaboration in communities of practice, more focused working groups would really want to make sure that we have good representation from developing countries, from implementers, and make sure it's grounded in country reality. I think we may just have time for one or two final questions here. Lisa, do you want to come out?
Yep. So we actually have a question from Barbara Bulk, at the Partnership for Maternal, Newborn, and Child Health. And her question is around the fact that the organization has had excellent collaboration with mHealth Alliance and the UN Foundation so far, and they look forward to strengthening it. the question is around to what extent do you envision that the mHealth Alliance as a platform to drive development of sustainable and scalable business models to use mHealth solutions to improve access to health in collaboration with various stakeholders that they see today, and to please share some examples of how they envision mHealth Alliance as that platform.
Let me jump in and take that one. And I think this question of sustainable and scalable business models is one clearly that's been coming up time and time again, as everyone's asking, how does this become scalable, and what is the sustainability piece here? Just some thinking there. I think the 5 strategic priorities that we've laid out, one of which is sustainable financing, as well as the others which inform sustainable financing in many ways, be it from the evidence perspective, the policy perspective, are very, very much key priorities here. So I think that this is an area where the mHealth Alliance will be focused going forward and working to really build, again, the commons pieces that will help to inform and achieve sustainable and scalable models. There was a second part of the question from Barbara. To what extent will the Alliance be a convener of events at global, regional, and local levels? And how can we strengthen the engagement of stakeholders beyond the U.S.? So, yes, the short answer is the mHealth Alliance will be convening events, the upcoming summit in December in D.C., as well as the summit in Cape Town with GSMA in May. And really want to balance both convening in the Global South and the Global North. There also will be more focused convenings, again, coming back to this notion of working groups in the community of practice. There will be targeted convenings that are the way in which members, partners in the Alliance will actually be working together across the agenda and across deliverables they set within these commons areas. Pause there. I think we're just at the end of our hour, and I think that was actually the last question we received. But I just want to thank everyone for their time today and engagement. It's great to see all of these people who've called in and are interested in helping to inform and shape the direction of the mHealth Alliance and its strategy. We will post the questions we received in this document again on Hub, and would love to hear any additional questions, comments, feedback from all of you. So thank you again, and we look forward to speaking again soon.